All right. Werewolf on Campus, Season 2, Episode 13, The Manchurian Werewolf, which is a play on the Manchurian candidate, and it does fit with the episode. Uh, and this is based on the original starring Mr. Ooby-Doo Blue Eyes, good old Blue Eyes himself, or whatever they call him. Old Blue Eyes. Frank Sinatra. Not the Denzel Washington remake that would have come out after this. I think it was like 2004 or so that one came out. So, yeah. So, this is the first and only two-parter. I guess you can count the season finale of Season 2 and the season premiere of Season 3 as a two-parter. But, I don't know. They're not right after each other, so it's kind of... and they don't have the same name, although the name for this is a little bit different. But, you know. So in this, the Werewolf Syndicate is back, and they captured Tommy. They hypnotize him, and we get introduced to my favorite side character in the entire series, Chip. Now, I mentioned him in the first one, The Girl Who Spied Wolf. There was a character very similar to him. I don't know if it was the same character, but Chip, while being somewhat evil, is like the nicest evil werewolf guy we've ever seen. He's the receptionist, and later we find out he's the leader's son. So, yeah. But he's my favorite side character because it's just the way they work the comedy with him works great. Like when he's introduced, the werewolf leader's like, "You're the only one, but every other werewolf is completely and totally evil." Hi-ho! As he pops through the door. I love Chip. He's funny. Then later when they give his cell phone, he goes, "It's free on nights and weekends," which is what the plans were back then. I had a friend, my friend Tim. We call him on nights and weekends, it was free. But then during weekdays, it cost, But, yeah, so he's hypnotized, and so the leader says, be two words passed down from generations. Those two words, when you hear those two words, you will be under my control and do whatever I say. And those two words are, Chip walks in just in time to say, "Pizza's here." So pizza's here. Whenever he hears pizza's here, that's when he goes into a trance, which leads to comedy later when he shows up. They don't know where he's been. He can't remember, although he comes up with some story. "Oh, we went fishing. I meant to call you, but I couldn't get to a phone." Which is thrown off by the fact that he has a cell phone in his pocket now. And they never call it out. Like, "Hey, wait a minute. If you have a cell phone now, how come you couldn't call us?" Although, cell phones in the year 2000, the reception was not very good. Although you can argue that maybe it's not too good nowadays either. But I digress. But oh my god, itch. It happens a lot. So, due to a miscommunication, when TNT are talking to him about something that happened, someone brings in the pizza and says, "Pizza's here." And during the story that Travis is telling, he goes, "Why don't you go and tackle an old lady?" And so he heard that. He goes outside, he tackles the town librarian, and then snaps out of it. He goes, "Why am I on top of the town librarian?" He doesn't remember doing it. And then he's got the cell phone, right? And he and Lori are making out because they're still dating at this point. I don't know when they break up. They do at some point. I remember when. The Werewolf Syndicate calls, tells him pizza's here, tells him to bite the first wolf you see him. The first person you see him, bring him back. And of course, Lori is there. He wolfs out, bites her. And credit to this scene, the acting in this scene is fantastic. I mean, I welled up a little bit with Laurie's acting, the actress who plays Laurie, and May Castle, her acting, and just how scared she is. And when he bites her, it just in her eyes, you could tell something there. It's I don't know. I rolled up a little bit. I got a little bit of wet in the eyes, so the eyelids or the eye sockets. Yeah. So he takes Laurie back to the Syndicate headquarters, which may or may not be in Pleasantville, because they mention go back to Pleasantville is what he says. So I don't know. It may not actually be in Pleasantville. So, and then Tommy doesn't remember anything that happened. He can't remember taking her home. Then I walked her home, I think. But they are in the lair, and Tommy once again gets a phone call on a cell phone. And the Syndicate leader says Pizza's here, and he tries to attack Merton. But thanks to Becky, Merton's sister, coming in and whacking Tommy in the head with the door, Tommy snaps out of it. And so Merton gets the idea to star 69 and call them back, to which you get Chip answering, "Hello, Evil Wolverine Syndicate, how may I direct your call? Hello?" And then, who is it? I like that Merton tries to pretend to be Tommy. He's like, "Who is this?" Like, "Oh, it's Tommy Dawkins." Remember, Tommy Pizza's here. Tommy, would it mean anything if I said Pizza's here? And he gets hypnotized. And what I like is they do the whole, this reminds me of this movie, but Tommy is still completely hypnotized through the entire thing. This reminds me of the 1960 whatever film, The Manchurian Candidate, starring Frank Sinatra. What happened? Oh, what's all what happened in the movie? The fact that he is still hypnotized. What happened in the movie? And he's hypnotized and he still does. Oh, it's fantastic. But yeah, so he connects this to the Manchurian Candidate. So they decide they have to. So Merton unhypnotizes him and says, "When I clap my hands, you will remember everything about the Werewolf Syndicate, and the world's pizza's here will have no bearing unless you actually order the pizza." And so claps his hands, and it wears off, and he remembers everything. And so Merton says, "We can still change Laurie back, but we have her eat wolf's bane before the first full moon." For those of you saying, "What about Tommy? Why didn't they try that?" Well, with Tommy, it's a little more complicated because they hadn't completely figured out the werewolf thing until after his first full moon. So, he was still in the process of changing when the first full moon came because it was so close. So, there really wasn't that much time to figure it out before then. Probably equal time, but this is a little more, So they have to get her to eat the wolf's bane so that she can turn back into a human. Apparently, Laurie is very strong as a werewolf. And the reason they need Tommy to bite more werewolves is because he's an alpha, and he's the only one. He's the only alpha, I guess, that exists, and he's the only one that can create new werewolves. Just some weird cockamamie plotline, so that they need him for. So they create a ruse, have him bring Merton in, and pretend that Merton is a victim, but it's a trick. And so they have the silver nitrate in the squirt gun, the water gun, super soaker, whatever. Tommy goes to untie Laurie and have her eat the wolf's bane, but she knocks it out of his hand because she wants to be a werewolf because it's taking control over her. And then Tommy and Merton get captured. Laurie is going to join the Werewolf Syndicate, and Tommy and Merton are held captive in a dungeon. And that's how we end Part 1. So, yeah. So without further ado, I'm gonna go to the next episode now. So sayonara.